everyone, welcome to today's episode of Plant Grow Eat, where we plant a seed, we grow our own food, and we eat together. Today I wanted to dedicate today's episode to answering questions that came up after the last few videos I did on papayas, bananas, and sweet potatoes and cherries. So what I did was compile those questions from Facebook posts and also from instant messages that I got from other people, and I'm going to go ahead and go through those. So first, let's start with the sweet potato questions. They wanted clarification on what soil I use. I did mention that I use Kellogg's organic soil, but there are two different kinds. If you're going to grow the sweet potatoes directly in pots, or in a raised bed, you can use the Kellogg's organic soil, which is specifically for pots and for raised beds. If you're going to grow the sweet potatoes directly in the ground, which I would definitely recommend that you till the soil well if you're going to do that, then you can grow it in using the Kellogg's garden soil. So the type of soil you use for any of these trees that I plant, it's all that varies based on if it's in the ground or in pots. With sweet potatoes, as with papayas and the bananas, I always add cow manure compost. And as you guys know, I like the black cow manure compost. You can also add a good organic fertilizer depending on what kind of what you're planting. For sweet potatoes, they really are, because they're tubers, they grow underground, they're very heavy feeders. So for the NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium, buy something that has a heavier phosphate and potassium. So say for instance a 5-10-10 organic mix would be really good for sweet potatoes. Somebody also asked, how often do I water my sweet potatoes? So sweet potatoes, you have to be careful that you don't overwater it or water, especially from top. You don't want to have wet leaves, especially here in South Florida. If the leaves are wet, you don't want it to develop a fungus, and it's really better to water sweet potatoes very heavily, but water from the roots and water heavily like once a week. And by heavy watering, I mean when you water it, if you have it in a pot or in a grow bag, water it till you see the water running out from the bottom, but don't water it more than maybe once a week. A lot of people, I've made the mistake of light watering, where I just go through and water like this. That actually only waters the first like maybe inch or half an inch of the soil. Because the potatoes are growing from the roots, we have to make sure that the water goes all the way down to the roots to properly water the sweet potatoes. Otherwise, the sweet potatoes will grow, but you'll get very small tubers. If you want to get nice big fat tubers, then water it well once a week. A question came up which I addressed before on my second video, the best way to grow slips, and I clarified on the second video that the best way to grow slips that I found is to rest in the sweet potato directly in the soil. And if you go back to the video on sweet potato tips, you'll see that explanation, and you'll also see a demo of that. How do you know when the sweet potato is ready to harvest? See, this was probably the most popular question I had. You know when the sweet potato is ready to harvest. Of course, you're gonna wait minimum 4 to 5 months. You'll see the ends of the vine starting to yellow and dry a bit. And then what I suggest, instead of taking up the entire harvest at one time, harvest just one small root or one small area first to make sure that it's at the size you want. If it isn't, you can leave it in the ground for another month or even 2 months. I've known people to leave sweet potatoes in as long as 7 months, and that just means you're gonna get even bigger sweet potatoes. The wonderful thing about sweet potato is it doesn't have to be huge in order for you to enjoy it. You can enjoy them even when they're smaller. We call those like fingerlings. You can roast those or cut them up and make stir fries with those, and they're just as delicious. Next question was, I've heard about curing. What does curing sweet potatoes mean, and what does it do? So for curing sweet potatoes, that actually means that after you harvest the sweet potatoes, you don't cook them right away. As a matter of fact, you don't even wash them off. You harvest them from the soil, and then you put them in like a warm, dark area for like 10 days, 2 weeks, And what that does is all the little scabs that are on the sweet potato, when you're pulling them up, those scabs seal over. But most importantly, the sweet potato actually, the sugars actually develop more as it cures, so the sweet potatoes are actually sweeter as they cure. So that's one of the benefits of curing the sweet potato, or waiting like 10 days to 2 weeks before you eat it after you harvest it. Personally, I have had the sweet potatoes like 2-3 days after I've harvested them, and they've been absolutely delicious. But they're even more delicious if you can manage to wait 10 days. All right, so I think that was it for my sweet potato questions. So let me scroll down and look at the next questions are on papayas. And I actually only had one question on papaya. What zones can papayas grow in? So papayas can grow in zones 9 and 10. I find that they are a tropical fruit, so they do like the warmer weather. The great thing is papayas, they grow and they bear within 1 year. So if you are in zone 9, the little cooler areas, you can get your papayas in the ground, or you can probably start your papaya seeds inside, transfer them in the ground as soon as it starts to warm up in the summer, and then your papaya should be good. I find in the cooler zones, they don't bear as proficiently as they do down here, but I've heard of people in Alabama, Atlanta, that grow papayas, but they grow them in greenhouses. So you probably won't get as vigorous a harvest if you're in the colder climates, but there are some people who do grow them in greenhouses. All right, the next question was actually a similar question on bananas. What zones can bananas grow in? And it's the same, zone 9A through 10B. I personally know more of bananas growing on this side, but online, I actually had to Google this one. It says that bananas can grow in cooler zones, 9A through 10B. How do I get a banana tree? The best way, my favorite way to get a banana tree is from a friend. If you know a friend that has any bananas growing, they always push up suckers. Suckers are the small banana plants that grow up, that usually gets shoots up beside the banana tree. That's the best way to get it. Otherwise, you can get them from your local organic nursery. I've also seen them at Home Depot. The key is just making sure that if you buy a banana plant, it's actually one that's gonna bear fruit, not one of the ornamental bananas. Also, there was a question about watering. How often do I water it? So banana is another one of those plants that really likes water. It likes to be heavily watered. My banana trees, I personally don't water them much, but I think the reason my bananas are so big and healthy is because I live right on a lake, and I believe the banana roots probably go down and pulls its own water. So apart from the rain and me occasionally watering it, I personally don't water it much. But I can tell you that your bananas will thrive even more and do better if they're well watered. Next question was, how should I separate suckers? And let me see here. Yes, should I separate suckers? So as I said, the suckers are the small banana shoots that come on the side. I have separated multiple suckers and given them to friends. As a matter of fact, it is absolutely better to separate the sucker, because think about it. You have your main banana tree and you have the small suckers along the side. All of them are competing for the same nutrition and the same water from the same source. When you separate your suckers, first of all, wait till the sucker is at least a foot high. That means it would have already started developing its roots. When you separate your sucker, then your sucker will have its own nutrition and its own water source, as will the parent banana, so they will do better. And I can give you an example. I had two suckers here, like about a foot, maybe about a foot high. I separated my sucker probably a month and a half ago, and gave one to a friend, and I left mine attached to the parent. Mine is maybe like 2 feet high now. Hers is like 5 or 6 feet high, and it's already pushing up a sucker. So definitely it's better to separate the suckers and put them in its own pot, or put them directly in the ground. Bananas grow better in the ground. There is a question about fertilizing the banana tree. I don't fertilize mine a lot, but I would definitely recommend black cow manure, which I do throw on there at least twice a year. Black cow manure compost. And whenever I have any extra garden soil after I've made my beds, I do put some extra soil around there. They also like a good balanced fertilizer. And then I had one question on my cherry tree. Is it better to try and grow from seed, or should I buy the tree? So I've never personally grown a cherry tree from seed. I think it would be a little bit difficult to grow it from seed. I know there are some people who graft a cherry tree, but since this show is all this chat is all about trying to grow things as easy as possible, I would go to your local organic nursery to buy your cherry tree. Usually 9 times out of 10 when you buy a cherry tree, it's not very expensive, maybe $25, and it already is covered with blossoms and usually a lot of small cherries on it. So if you want to start eating your cherries right away, just go ahead and buy your cherry tree from a local nursery. And I think that was my last question that I had. It was wonderful being able to do this question and answer with you, and I hope that you found this very helpful. And until next time, let's plant, grow, and eat together. Have a great day, people. Bye.